just returned from, also does his research in Iran. Can you talk about the overall situation in Bahrain right now?
Thank you for having me, Amy. The situation in Bahrain is as bad as it has been for a very long time. What we're seeing in Bahrain today is a full-scale crackdown on any sort of dissent in the country. You've just spoken to the Al-Khawaja family. You have more than 500 people who have been arrested and detained since March the 15th. You have full-scale security sweeps on Shia villages, both in the capital and outside the capital, throughout the country. You have massive dismissals. Hundreds of individuals, perhaps more than 1,000, have been dismissed from their jobs, many of them state enterprise jobs, during the past month and a half. I mean, this has gone well beyond trying to reestablish security, which is the main message that the Bahraini government has been sending to the international community, that we are trying to reestablish security, that there was chaos for the month and a half or so that Bahrain was experiencing protests. This has gone well beyond that. This is a retribution campaign. Everyone who was associated with the protests, who spoke out when journalists were there, who spoke to international media, and who aired their grievances against the Al-Khalifa family is now being targeted.
The power of the United States here and the difference between what the U.S. is doing and what European countries are doing in Bahrain. We hear very little about Bahrain, and yet this is a crucial interest area of the United States with the Navy Fifth Fleet there.
Absolutely. I mean, we at Human Rights Watch, and I know other human rights organizations who we've worked closely with for the past 2 months or so, have been extremely disappointed. The response from the U.S. government, there have been very, very few public statements. We believe that the public statements that they have issued have been wholly inadequate, given what is actually happening on the ground in Bahrain today. And you mentioned the European Union. The European Union has been a little better, but there have been very disappointing statements that have come out of High Representative Ashton's office as well. And I actually spent about a week or so traveling throughout Europe about 2 weeks ago, meeting with European Parliament members, meeting with the EU Council, going to Paris, meeting with French officials to try to essentially push them to come out with more public statements on what is happening there, and also to seriously consider breaking off any sort of military and security ties with the government of Bahrain.
The Guardian writes a piece contrasting Europe's response and the United States, talking about in a meeting with the Bahraini Interior Minister, the British Ambassador Jamie Bowden raised concerns over the deaths of 4 dissident prisoners in the last week. Catherine Ashton, the EU, the European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, speaking through a spokesman, also called on the Bahrain regime to immediately release all those who've been detained for peacefully expressing themselves. Ashton announced she's visiting Bahrain next week, and yet you contrast that with the minimal censure from the United States.
That's right. I mean, all human rights organizations understand that, the relationship that the United States has with Bahrain, the relationship that the United States has with Saudi Arabia is very sensitive. But as a human rights advocate, we just cannot understand why the United States has been so silent. I mean, there have been, as I mentioned before, 2 or 3 statements that they've come out with. But what we are seeing today in Bahrain is extremely troubling. We have, around 30 individuals who have been killed, some in detention, some in custody. As I mentioned, hundreds of individuals in nighttime raids, including Mr. Al-Khawaja, who was taken away. You mentioned Mohammed Al-Tajir. He's the first lawyer, we believe, in more than a decade to have been arrested in Bahrain. And every time we think that there's a red line that the government is not going to cross, we witness that they cross it. And we are now seeing an absolute slide into a police state and dictatorship in Bahrain. And yet we see really no adequate response from the U.S. administration as to what's going on there.
And the role of another U.S. ally, Saudi Arabia, in the crackdown?
Absolutely. The Saudis, there's so much talk about the Iranians being involved in what's happening in Bahrain. Everyone is fearful of, calling out the Bahraini government for what's actually happening. But what are the troops that are actually on the ground in Bahrain? GCC troops, it's Saudi troops, it's UAE troops that are on the ground in Bahrain, not Iranian troops. And they are playing a key role in what is going on there. And yet we again see absolutely no public statement against the Saudi government. Now there's a $60 billion arms agreement, essentially, that we believe is going to be agreed to in the next several weeks, if not several months, between the U.S. and the Saudis. And all of this is going on in Bahrain. It's absolutely unbelievable.
And the U.S. just recently sealed the biggest arms deal in U.S. history with Saudi Arabia,
Exactly.
$60 billion worth of weapons.
That's right. That's right.
What about the trial that Bahrain has just announced for 7 activists, military trials?
That's right. Right now, Bahrain is under martial law. And what we see is that some individuals who have been arrested since March the 17th have gone in front of the public prosecutor. And often the public prosecutor is a military public prosecutor. And essentially, the Bahraini government's position is that we are under martial law and they will be tried by the military, which, of course, is extremely troubling both to lawyers inside Bahrain and also to human rights activists, because we don't have the ability to monitor these trials. As far as we know, there's not going to be international monitoring of the trials. And as you know, military trials often are much more worrying, and the rights that detainees have are much less.
And what happened to Mohammed Al-Tajir, the human rights attorney representing some of these human rights activists?
He is in detention at the moment. We don't have any word as to where he's being detained. He was detained during a nighttime raid. This has essentially been the way that the Bahraini government has gone after individuals who it's targeted. They have gone after them at 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning when they are often asleep with their families. And masked men, sometimes in uniform and sometimes in plainclothes, rush in and take these individuals away.